Our monthly newscasts became weekly newscasts. With only 4 seats left, we bring you up to date with all the British touring car news for the 26th season.
Hello listeners, it's Russell and Sam here. Now, because we recorded our news update previously, we hadn't had the Mikey Doble news, and as soon as we finished recording and got everything ready to go, the Mikey Doble news dropped that he is at PMR. So this is a voice note that's going at the start of the podcast to say ignore everything we speculate and say on Mikey Doble. He is at PMR for the 2026 season.
Yes, but look at the insight that we had.
Yes.
It doesn't look brilliant, but yeah, at PMR for 2026, continuing it on 4th year with the team, I believe, going in with a new car this season as well, so it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to that and how the team, as a 3-car team this year, are going to adapt to it as well. I think Doble's got enough experience with the team now that I think he's probably going to be seen as team leader, with Moffat backing him up, and then Deck's going to be that driver that's still very much on a high learning curve.
Absolutely, and because we're at the side of the road, there's lots of cars going by, so we'll talk more about Doble on our next news podcast. But yes, ignore anything we say about Doble. He is at PMR. Thank you for listening.
Hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast, and you may wonder where we are. We're in the car today.
We're in a car.
Yeah.
I have a plumber in the house who is...
Came unannounced, I assume.
Well, we had the usual of, I'll come at some point this week. Yeah. And of course, the most, the time that is most inconvenient to all is the time that he decided to come. So obviously on the good side of the debate, I'll be having heating back, hopefully.
Yes.
Just as the sun
comes out.
Yeah. But on the negative, he was being rather loud, which also meant, and also blocking access to the pod room, which was a slight problem. And I'm not really a man's enough man to ask him to just cut that out a little bit while we record. So we're in the car, but it does mean the flag is better.
We've gone full Bear Grylls and we're adapting and overcoming.
Yes. But look at that flag.
I know.
For audio listeners, you may want to jump on YouTube just for the flag, because this is... and also, in case any police or anybody is watching, the car is parked, it is turned off, we are not driving the car, it is all good, we're not blocking our views, and we're not wearing seatbelts because we are just sat here in a car.
Yes.
There we go, the legality's out the way.
So we're going to bring you up to date with all of the news that's gone on since the last podcast. If you haven't gone and watched it already, we'll give you a very short update, but if you haven't, go and watch it. Drop us a like, subscribe, comment, do all the good things. Thank you for your interaction already. But yeah, we've had a good number of driver announcements, and the grid is certainly filling up. As you alluded to there in the intro, we have around about 4 seats left once we get through all of our news from today. So let us know who you think is going to fill those seats, and we'll catch you up to date with all the drivers so far.
Yep, so it's not just driver announcements that have been going on. We've had our first few test days as well. There was a test day at Snetterton up in Norfolk. If you haven't seen our photographs from that test day, Sam's mother very kindly, who lives near the circuit, very kindly went down for us.
On a scouting mission.
Put on her Inspector Clouseau outfit and went down to try and work out who was where. She did get some great pictures, which I say are on our Facebook page if you want to have a look at the Nappa cars, the WSR cars and the Toyota cars in race trim in shakedown conditions. I love that Josh Cook still had pink wing mirrors for the shakedown test. That is great to see. And the liveries for the Nappa and the motor,
MB.
Thank you, MB Laser Tools side of the garage look excellent as well. It was a question, of course, to who would be driving the WSR cars at this shakedown, because as of yet, no official announcement has been made. However, at test day, we saw 2 familiar faces.
Well, 3 familiar faces, actually. So WSR were also testing their GT car. So Turkington was there, along with the driver that he'll be driving with. But crucially, there were 3 WSR BMWs there, 2 with numbers and names, and 1 with just a number, which speculation has been going wild over. However, the 2 more confirmed drivers, shall we go for, are Rainford and De Leon. They were both there, both driving the car, and we think they're pretty much set to have 2 of the 3 seats that are there at WSR.
It would be unusual to have those 2 drivers testing the car if there's not plans in place to have them in said car as the season begins. They are also at Brands Hatch today on the day of recording, 17th of March. I've not had the chance to see who's been in those cars today. However, as I say, it'd be unusual for them to take 2 drivers that they if they're not going to be using them for the season. So I think, whilst it's not officially confirmed, I think the smart money would be in that direction for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And a driver that was also there at the shakedown at Snetterton was Proctor at Nappa. He did actually have some time in the car, and he's obviously going to be helping Sam Osborne going forward this season. And dare I say, if problems arise with with Selby, sorry.
Big problems have to arise if that's the case.
With Selby not quite fitting in, maybe budget constraints towards the end of the season, then I think Proctor is in the prime position to step in. It's a shame that we're not going to see him back on the grid, especially in a Hyundai, with how well he performed last season, although it wasn't a full season. And yeah, I'm still slightly amazed that he hasn't got a full drive.
I'll come back to that. If I can just pop back to WSR quickly, the third driver that they had in the car, we believe, was James Jakes from the GT world. Unclear as to whether he'll be actually their third driver for the season. I expect that the third driver will either be a stalwart like Stephen Jelly, sorry, please don't get triggered in a small space, please keep calm, or they'll go like they did with Rainford and put somebody that they've had in the Porsche, or that's been in the Porsche program, or maybe even in the world of GTs that they want to bring in to the touring cars. So I wouldn't be particularly shocked if we see another rookie in that car this season. It's worked pretty well with De Leon and Rainford thus far.
Yeah, quite unusual to see WSR do something like that and actually allow a driver out in testing that his helmet was just about identifiable, but he had completely plain overalls on and stuff like that. So it could well be him taking that third seat. We just don't know at this stage.
No, if they run one at all.
Yeah, that is true. So with Proctor being at Nappa as a reserve driver,
disappointing.
It really does open up questions, with Morgan obviously going across to Plato Racing. Who the hell is going to be Accelerate? We have 2 seats left to fill.
Yep.
Obviously the 2 Toms are there and are there what feels like for the long term, but it does really make me question what's going on.
Yeah, I've got a couple of schools of thought which have come down to complete wild speculation. So
let's hear it.
My grand theory, and this is pure speculation, is that Nick Hamilton has been measured for a race seat, as far as we understand.
Yep. We know he's got a race licence for 2026.
It would be a surprise, I think, with all due respect, to see him at Virtue. We know there's another seat's been announced at PMR. We'll get to that news in a minute. What would make sense in my mind, and sense and touring cars don't go hand in hand because sense doesn't take into account budget, is that perhaps Mikey Doble could move across into Virtue and then Nick Hamilton into PMR. Yep. However, that is pure off the head speculation, nothing, no insider information, no knowledge, just pure trying to put pieces together.
I certainly think that Mikey Doble deserves that kind of move and deserve to have the opportunity at a team like Accelerate, who we know are really well sorted out. We also know that drivers like Crease have already announced that they won't be back, so aren't going to be taking an option in that seat, certainly.
And that's
for 2026.
And that's why, realistically, I think the only place Crease would have been Virtue.
Yes.
So if he can't bring together a budget, I find it difficult to think that Nick would be able to, purely because they're a similar level driver in terms of what they can get sponsorship wise and experience in the series, etc. And they've always raced at a fairly similar level, i.e. Team Hard Days and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm if Crease couldn't get it together, I'd be surprised if Nick could for Virtue. But I think, I could be wrong, but I think with some of the PMR news that has come out that the barrier, the amount you need to bring might be slightly lower.
Yeah, with PMR being more of an independent team as well, generally the budgets are a little bit lower. And as you've alluded to, there is significant news coming out of there in regards to their sponsorship program, and that involves them linking up with LKQ Euro Car Parts. Obviously, we know they were the main sponsor for Aidan Moffat over the last couple of seasons. They were there with him at Toyota. They moved across with him to BMW, and as a consequence of that, they have now moved with him to PMR. So Dexter and Moffat at PMR, and this must be Moffat's sixth car.
He doesn't stay still, does he? Yeah, he doesn't stay still.
Cars. He's certainly getting his money's worth for the different cars that he's used. But you told me an interesting bit of information the other day with how Moffat got into the sport and how there's an interesting link.
Yeah, so having read the press release from PMR, it looks like Adam Weaver has had a long standing relationship with Moffat and getting Moffat into racing, etc. And this has seemingly been a partnership long in the making. As we said before, touring car deals are really difficult to go over the line. A lot of the times, what you want is what you can't get for various reasons, which sometimes be as simple as sponsorship clashing.
Yep.
But it does look like this has been a deal that both parties have been interested in for a very long time. So hopefully, Moffat could be a bit settled at this team. Bring in the LKQ sponsorship, new car to develop as well.
My brain has just gone boom. Obviously, Doble had
Doble.
Doble.
We get messages.
I know, had MPD with him.
I did say it to you the other day in the group chat.
MPD and Euros aren't going to match up, are they?
But MPD could sponsor a car at Virtue because last year Morgan raced under the Draper Tools banner at Virtue. One would assume that that's not happening this year because Draper, I don't know if they will be there or not, actually, to be fair. I don't know. But it could well be, theoretically, that one could run an MPD car at Virtue, potentially. But again, this is all speculation and all nothing confirmed. I want to make that abundantly clear. But
let us know your wild theories down in the comments below as well, because we're more than open to discussing them and theorising about them until we actually get an announcement.
But of course, Moffat has been teammates of Patterson before. They both were in the Infiniti a couple of years ago in the Laser Tool sponsorship days. This is quite an interesting mix. We understand Patterson will not be in the LKQ side of the garage. He'll be under a separate sponsor. Who that is yet to be seen. Possibly,
I'm assuming Rocket,
quite possibly, but not confirmed.
He may just run a Power Max car.
Yeah, that's also a possibility.
Possible.
Yeah, that is also a possibility. But we'll wait the final announcement at PMR in due course. So we've got definitely a seat to go there. I think linking Moffat and Dex back up again makes sense. They seem to get on. They seem to be fairly good at working with each other. The big question is going to be, can they develop a new car? Moffat has struggled moving machine to machine. I think
he struggled bringing the Infiniti in, didn't he?
To be fair, everyone did apart from Sutton.
Well,
it was a car that didn't really work for anyone.
We did see good improvement from Moffat in that time. I was about to say, Sutton came in.
Well, also we saw improvement.
I think they're going to need an experienced driver in there as well, though.
Yeah, we did see improvement, I think, towards the end of his Toyota years as well. I think he started to sort of get the hang of that, but then did move across to BMW. I don't think he had a particularly strong season with BMW, if I'm being brutally honest. I think he was outshone by Rainford and De Leon. Yeah,
agreed.
I mean, there's no shame in being outshone by Jake Hill, obviously. You're a champion for a reason, but certainly by rookie and by effect a rookie. Thought he was particularly outshone. So hopefully he can rebuild himself here, maybe take a bit more of a leading role in the team.
Yep.
I think when he has shone, he has had that leading role. So I think back to when he was an independent coming through under the
Mercedes on his own pretty much and was able to pull out some really quite good performances, especially for the car at that time as well.
Exactly. So I think you also have to remember the sort of teammates he's had. Anyone looks bad against Sutton, or most people do, you should say.
Yep.
Same with Hill. Going into Toyota, Cook and Huff are icons of the sport in many ways.
Yeah.
They're difficult to come up against. So I think he has had some really good teammates along the way, and it is sometimes difficult to stand out against those. That's no shade on Dex, but he should be the more senior driver.
Yes.
From the two we have announced thus far at that garage.
Yeah, agreed. For them to do 3 cars, obviously it's a big undertaking for them, especially with all the bits and pieces that went on last season. If you haven't already, there is sort of like a YouTube following video tour, basically, taking you through sort of like their new premises that they're now located at, how they're starting to rebuild. And we've seen Adam Weaver and Dex do a podcast recently about how they've come together, how they've...
Hopefully a bit happier than than the press release.
How they've gone on to start to rebuild the team, basically. Do keep an eye on that. Nappa have also done an interesting video.
Yes, they have. Yeah, very good.
On how they've had to almost like restructure the cars. So they've taken last year's cars, they've cut away that hatch back end, and basically just fabricated on that saloon back end. And they've also had to do it with the minis as well, with new body parts and new body panels. And that's really quite an interesting watch as well.
Yeah, particularly if you're on the more nerdy side of how these things work and how these things run. So yeah, definitely recommend checking that out. One team that is fully now signed up for the 2026 season is Restart Racing.
With a driver that I thought he moved away midway through last season, probably
somewhat harshly, I felt.
Yeah, I would agree, definitely harshly, because there was, quote, a better driver on the market at that time, and that was Josh Cook,
who'd been made homeless by the demise of One Motorsport.
Yes.
Still waiting for confirmation, guys, about the 2026 season.
So yeah, James Dornlin was unfortunately removed from his position at Toyota, and I think he's a name
by mutual consent. I think we should probably add for the law.
Allegedly. And he'd been moved away from that position, and he's a driver that I hadn't even sort of like considered being an option for teams this season. Although his performances up until that point were really quite decent, especially for a new driver into the sport.
I kind of assumed if he came back, he'd be in a reserve or development role at Toyota in some description. I was not expecting, we should probably say his name, he's not actually said it yet. I was not expecting James Dorlin to be rocking up at Restart Racing this season, which I think is good for him, because at Restart are a really interesting team in themselves. That
they're a nurturing team, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think they really used last year to consolidate their position within the series. Obviously, they had a difficult first year in the Cupras. Less said about those, the better. And obviously, Smiley struggled to get to grips with it, and it was, I think it's fair to say, Summerton was probably out of his depth, being brutally honest. Last year, obviously, with Lloyd and Smiley becoming effectively a customer team of Virtue, I think has really helped them stabilise themselves in the sport.
Yeah, becoming independent champions, both teams and drivers champion. I think it's a really good position for them to build on, and a really exciting opportunity for Dorlin to step into. Because if he can show even an ounce of the pace that he showed within that Toyota, I think he'll have a lot more support around him as well, because it's more of a focused team, being only 2 cars.
No, it's a Hyundai.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, we'll move on. Being focused just on 2 cars, you're able to possibly speed up that development process and finesse certain areas of the car that you want to work on, rather than necessarily as a whole team pushing forward. So I think we could see some really good performances from him this season.
I think it also helps he's going to have a car beneath him that is good. Let's be honest, he was running the Toyota last year with the engine that was powered by the hamster in the wheel. Restart showed last year that they are a quick outfit in a good car. So, and Chris Smiley brings oodles of experience with him to the team, and he's not a bad driver to learn off. He's a, safe pair of hands.
I think Dorlin's aim for this season is probably going to have to be Jack Sears, because I think he could quite comfortably take that. And then as a team to try and retain that independent team's title.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head who's in the Jack Sears this year. There's only 3 so far, isn't there?
Not a big field so far.
Buxton, Patterson and Dorlin, I believe, at the moment.
Off the top of my head, yeah.
Because Rainford and De Leon won't qualify because Rainford won a race.
They both won races.
Well, but De Leon was defending anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
Yep.
Cool. Right. I think the only last thing to touch on is that Plato Racing are launching today, as we understand it. They have released a testing livery, because of course they have.
Because it's the stylish thing to do nowadays, isn't it?
Is it? I mean, Nappa just went, here's our livery, we're going testing.
No, it's more of that F1 does, route and how Red Bull have started to promote themselves. And it does feel a lot like the behind the scenes footage is very much a structure behind the team that just want to impress.
Yes.
And to keep constant interest in the team as well. And I think doing this by putting out a testing livery, you go, well, let's just tease a little bit more and then a little bit more.
Well, you're suggesting this goes well with the purple steering wheel that was revealed today as well, because well, most teams have a black felt steering wheel. Jason Plato has some money behind him, it would appear, and wants a purple with yellow stitching steering wheel. I will say, part of me thinks it looks nice. Part of me also thinks it looks like Dastardly's car from Wacky Races, which is probably the aesthetic Plato's going for. But yeah, I think it's very plain to see with a testing livery with golden wheels, with purple steering wheels. This is a team that's got serious bucks behind it.
Yeah, we said this just before we started recording, that we think, although the main sponsors haven't been announced, there is a big bankroll behind them, and they have very much bought into Plato's ethos. and knowing how big a name he is in the sport, they're willing to go, look, here's your suitcase. Here's your suitcase full of money. Do what you want.
In fairness, neither of us are marketing experts.
No,
However,
no,
when we use
granted.
Plato's name in an Instagram post,
It blows.
we have
blows up.
levels we have never seen before. And if we can do it as two fairly dummies in this field, I'm sure people that can actually understand how marketing works can use it even better than we can.
Yep.
And that's probably why he's able to attract the sponsors, because I think it's both a good and a bad thing. I think in some ways, obviously, it's great for the sport that we're going to get potentially a bit more exposure, going to get all these bits and pieces. I think it's also pretty bad for the sport that 20 years down the line from when Plato was really relevant, let's be honest, or maybe not 20, maybe 10.
It's almost that harping back to the golden age and bringing back some of those people that went, touring cars isn't as good now. Plato's coming back. Yeah, I want to watch it. And I think we are going to see a lift in viewing figures this year, and people interested in the sport. I
can't work out why people like Turkington and Sutton haven't had that same impact on the sport. When you consider that they're both 4-time champions. They've both done insane things in their own rights, and two completely different opposing styles of driver, and they've got a completely different style, and that has, I think it's brought a lot to the sport, and yet people are still only really interested in what Jason Plato's up to. And you see it in all the Facebook posts that we've been doing of who's going to be the second driver at Plato Racing. Will it be Matt Neal? No. Obviously it won't be Matt Neal.
But people want that golden age back, and it's very much the same. I work in the classic car industry, and we're noticing nowadays that the cars that we're dealing with, the ones in the 60s and 70s, there's less people interested in them, because unfortunately those people aren't around as much now when they had them when they were younger. But we're moving into the age of where people are into their fast forwards and stuff like that. People want to relive that again and have Plato back in the sport. In fact,
can I mention what's in your workshop at the minute?
Go on.
In fairness, if I had the choice to come into your workshop and buy one of those oldie worldy cars or the Supra you've got in,
I know. So it's how times move, and people are always going to hark back to that era. And I think having his hit and his clout in the sport is certainly going to help this season. That's why we've left into the end piece of news on the podcast as well.
The light is starting to die, so let's rattle through who is on the grid very, very quickly to keep everybody up to date, and then we shall say cheerio and see you on our next pod. So WSR has still got officially 3 seats to announce based on what we've seen during testing and what we've heard close to the ground, etc. We would expect De Leon and Rainford to be 2 of those. I have literally no idea on the third. As I said earlier, I think it will go either one way, which is a stalwart who's been there before, like a jelly figure. Keep calm, or they'll go down a much the rookie route of bringing somebody through. Then at Nappa, all 4 of those are confirmed, as is the reserve driver. So just to remind you, Sutton, Camish, Osborne, who had an off today in at Brands Hatch, or at least his car did. We don't know who was driving.
I was going to say, it was a bit of a crunch, wasn't it?
His car had an off, and Selby, who stepped up from the minis. Accelerate, we know there's 4 licenses, and I should again just say, just because there's 4 licenses doesn't mean they'll be filled.
No, that's true.
We do know that Tom, Ingram and Chilton, are at that team with 2 seats potentially to go. Dorlin and Smiley make up Restart Racing. One Motorsport is Gone Motorsport. They're not on the grid. I'm sorry. They're just not. There's no noise coming out of there whatsoever. There's not even rumours coming out of there. Well, there's no positive rumours coming out of there.
It would be sensational if they turn up at Media Day. I think that would be the biggest news. No matter what else is launched, whether it's liveries, drivers, if they turn up at Media Day,
in a racer capacity,
I'll be amazed. Yes,
not just sort of the teams popping out.
That's true. Yeah,
and you've got one motorsport coat. Maybe you can pop there
with a car ready to go out on track. I would be stunned.
Look, there is still some teams like to do it all on Media Day and keep it all under wraps. I remember a few years ago, Motorbase were. I say a few years ago, it's ages ago now, but probably 8 years ago. But they were nowhere, and then suddenly. Bang, bang, bang. By the way, we're running a Focus and Rory Butcher's our driver. I know. Out of absolutely nowhere. So maybe, but given what happened last year, I just don't see it. PMR, we know we've got Moffat and Patterson, and we are expecting a further announcement there too. And then Toyota, Aaron Taylor-Smith and Shedden make up the laser tool side of the garage.
Yep.
And then we have the Cook and Buxton side of the Speedworks Toyota, whatever the umbrella thing's called now. And then finally, Morgan and Rowbottom make up Plato Racing.
Yep.
We know that Unlimited Motorsport are taking a break this year and probably forevermore.
And the only other team
My
you missed
opinion.
there was Restart.
No, I didn't. I said Doyle and Smiley make up Restart.
Did you?
I did.
Apologise, I wasn't listening to you.
No, nor was anyone else. So, yeah.
Let us know your thoughts and feelings. Obviously, drivers from last year that we haven't got announced. I think the biggest driver there is Doble.
At the moment, yes.
Still. And wouldn't you love it if he turned up in a BMW? I think
that is left field.
That would be left field. But the seat's still open. It's still possible.
One Motorsport.
But yeah, we'll see.
He could do worse than staying at PMR.
There are other rumours on the table, aren't there, about Laidlaws from TCR and stuff like that. But I don't see much traction either.
The only way I see that rumour coming to fruition is if they take over One Motorsport. I don't see him going into the 2 seats at Virtue, personally. There's only one. I don't see them splitting themselves across 2 teams either. From what I understand, they would be a 2-person team. So I think that might be a rumour that we put into maybe next year's category. And just to confirm as well, I had a look on Vortex Racing. Do you remember them?
Oh, yes.
I had a look on their website the other day. It seems they're only doing track days now. Admittedly in a BTC car, but it looks like they've got a Cupra that they're running on track days. However, it does not look like they are the racing team that we expected them to be. So that's probably the end of that project, I would suggest.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me too much. It was very much a flash in the pan on social media, and that's been about it for that team. But yeah, if you haven't done already, do go down below, like, subscribe, comment. We love to see all your comments, and we do try and read them all and reply to as many as we can. But yeah, until next time.
I have one last thing to request at the end of this podcast, is that obviously as the season begins and we get underway, we will be doing, as part of our preview shows, predictions.
Yes.
If there is any change to how we did it last year that you wish to suggest, by all means do it. We have been doing that format of predictions for I think 3 seasons solid.
Yeah, decent time now.
So we're happy to continue with what we have. However,
we always like to freshen it up a bit.
Exactly that. Evolving world. You never know.
If you want to have one fan prediction each week, we're more than happy to take that on board. And pick the either the best or the most outrageous one. But yeah, give us your thoughts and feelings on how you want to see us develop over the season.
Absolutely.
We're more than happy to listen.
There you go. Like, share, subscribe, tell your mate, tell your dog, tell your cat, tell somebody at work. Even if you don't like it, they all count in the algorithm. So just keep sharing.
Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Cheerio.